as was kindly introduced, today's topic is on spiritual aspirations. But as with any sharing in the beginning of the year, is always the issue of wishing everyone Happy New Year. We will have many, many New Years throughout every year. And the one following the Gregorian calendar will be Chinese New Year. So we're looking forward to that. And all the shopping complexes are already decorated for Chinese New Year. Well, this is the standard, what they call Gregorian calendar type of New Year issues. We have a tradition of making goals, resolutions, and stuff like that. Top left, of course, is an indication of we want better health. So hopefully you have a better diet. Bottom left, where we are reminded of what we want to plan for this year, do this and do that, and so on. And the right-hand side is the typical lamentations and frustrations that many people who have made goals have. That a goal made in 2024 was to be accomplished in 2023, and it was made further back in 22 and 21 and planned in 2020. So these are the challenges which what I call we all face, whether in the material side or in the spiritual side also. Okay. Notice on this poster, I have what I call de-emphasize the aspect of aspiration, but we want to talk about the spiritual aspect, the why and the what is going on. And we have to recollect this particular, what they call school lesson, which we have learned, and some of us had to sit for exams to regurgitate this. But then we look outside. Our experience, if we look closely, clearly shows that life is subject to a series of ever-changing conditions. And the key word here is change. Change is the only constant throughout life. In the microsecond, the milliseconds, in the days, years, and so on, through whole lives, okay, we can see this happening. But it is not just outside us that change is happening. We ourselves are changing. We are born, if we are lucky, we are born, we are toddlers, we grow up, we go to school, we work, we may find our significant other, and if you're lucky, we grow old together, and of course, as we all change, we will pass away. That is the norm. And the title here is Our Wanderings in Samsara. Now, the poster only shows one life, but samsara is talking about a cycle of birth and death. And the Buddha discovered that this is not our only life, and if we don't do anything about it, this won't be our only life. We are going through this process again and again and again and again, endless. And the endlessness, some people say, oh, samsara only a couple of births. Well, it goes beyond the life of this universe. That's how far back we have been around. So how old are we? Incalculable. We are very, very, very old in this cycle of birth and death. And of course, the Buddha in Dhammapada verse 153 reflected, he himself, before he was enlightened, through many a birth in samsara have I wandered in vain, seeking the builder of this house being of life. Repeated birth is indeed dukkha, or suffering. So this is what the Buddha found out underneath the Bodhi tree. And then when he got enlightened, the Buddha went back and reflected further. And in the Pugala Sutta from the Samyutta Nikaya, chapter number 15, Sutta number 10. Now, the key emphasis is SN 15, chapter 15, contains many such reflections. This particular reflection happens to be about bones. There are other reflections about tears and so on. But the key message is still the same in all of these suttas or reflections in this particular chapter. Monks, transmigration, means being born again and again, has no known beginning. That statement alone answers what I call the standard question where other people of other philosophies, religions, what does your religion believe about the beginnings of this? They love their preoccupation with origins and all that. This first statement answers the question. No known beginning. So no first point is found of sentient beings roaming and transmigrating, shrouded by ignorance and fettered by craving. One person roaming and transmigrating for an aeon would amass a heap of bones the size of this Mount Repula if they were gathered together and not lost. So why is that? Because transmigration has no known beginning. So we have been around. So we are born, we grow old, and we pass away again and again and again. But interestingly, the Buddha found underneath the Bodhi tree that was a way to end it all, to get out of this again and again of issues. In Dhammapada verse 414, he mentions, he who have traversed the miry, perilous, and delusive round of existence has crossed over and reached the other shore. Hence the picture, the other shore, hopefully a nice island. This person who is meditative, calm, free from doubt, and clinging to nothing has attained to Nibbana. Him do I call a holy man. Has attained to Nibbana. Nibbana is the other shore, where there's no more death, there's no more birth, and so on. So this is what the Buddha discovered. And finally, in Dhammapada verse 154, he says, after the Bodhisattva became a Buddha, O house builder, you are seen. You will not build this house again, for your rafters are broken, your rigid pole shattered. My mind has attained or reached the unconditioned, which is the description of for Nibbana. I have attained the destruction of craving. For the Buddha, and of course later on, 45 years of teaching, the Buddha taught many disciples, and they too have walked the path, heeded the Buddha's advice, and attained the unconditioned, the destruction of craving. For the Buddha, as well as all these enlightened disciples, they too have reached the further shore. No more being born, no more dying, no more dukkha or suffering for them. But we, having still got craving in our minds, will continue in this cycle of birth and death called samsara, unless we do something about it. Hence today's talk. Then to do justice to what the Buddha is talking about, we have to revisit the first lecture or first teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Dhamma Chakra Pavatana Sutta, the setting in motion the wheel of Dhamma. So he met up with the five ascetics at the deer park, Partner, and he addressed them. Monks, these two extremes ought not to be cultivated by one gone forth from the house life. So he warned the five ascetics not to go to two extremes. And it's also a warning for us that we shouldn't go to the extreme of extreme luxury and comfort, and the other extreme of torturing our bodies, which is the first message he gave to these five ascetics. Now, the whole of the first lecture given by the Buddha centers about four great discoveries. He said most of us know it as the Four Noble Truths. On the left side, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have some of these terms, laid out in medical terminology. When you see a doctor, if you're sick, nowadays there's a lot of COVID going around, so a lot of people have been seeing the doctors. So when you go and see the doctor or you use a test kit, it's called a diagnosis. We want to find out what is going on. Do we have COVID? So we try to identify. On the right side in the box, that's what the first noble truth does. The Buddha does a diagnosis and found out that there is such a thing called dukkha, here translated as unsatisfactoriness. Other Dhamma books use the term suffering. But the word dukkha, being an Indian language, there's no such thing as one Indian word equals to one English word translation. It is a range of meanings. Okay, so unsatisfactoriness covers certain aspects. Number 2, etiology. So the doctor wants to find out the cause. Okay, as far as life is concerned, the Buddha identified that our dukkha is caused by tanha. And what is tanha? Craving. It is not desire. Okay, it is craving. Craving is a negative aspect of desire. You can have wholesome desires. So Buddhism does not aim to destroy all your desires, because you can have wholesome desire to do good, to help somebody, and so on. But when you have evil desires, that is called craving. Craving or tanha is rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion. And of course, with any disease, once you have symptoms, which the doctor diagnose, and the doctor is able to find the cause of your problem. And of course, as patients, we want to know, is there a cure? So in the medical term, it's called a prognosis, a chance to get cured. Some diseases, you have no chance to get cured. You have to stay with it, stay with that condition for the rest of your life, or make it a little bit better with tongkat or whatever. That's all you can do. So the prognosis. And in the case of life, the Buddha said that the prognosis is good. He discovered there is a cure, the ending of all this dukkha, this disease. It is called nibbana, and the end, which is translated as ending of unsatisfactoriness. And of course, once you know that there is a possibility of cure, all patients want to know, how do I get cured? What is the treatment? And the treatment, as far as the Buddha is concerned, is the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Four Noble Truths can be presented in this fashion, the four aspects as in the medical side, as well as in the Four Noble Truths. Now, okay. Very often we wonder, how is dukkha defined? Now, let the Buddha speak. Yeah, this in the first lecture. The Buddha defined that dukkha is birth is suffering. Birth is dukkha. Aging is dukkha. Sickness is dukkha. I haven't come across people who say when they get sick, they're feeling very well. Okay, sickness always comes with disease. That's how the word disease comes, because it's disease. There's no comfort in it. So sickness is dukkha. Death is dukkha. Not just for the person dying, okay, but also for their loved ones around them. Association with the unpleasant is dukkha. Dissociation with the pleasant is dukkha. Not to receive what you want is dukkha. In brief, the five aggregates subject to grasping are dukkha. The last one is a little bit more difficult, but which I will not go into. But the top portion is something which all of us have experienced as we grow up. And here is just an illustration. Aspects of dukkha over the years. When we are toddlers, when we growing up as children, when we are in our youth, young, and so on, we have dejection, rejection, we have loneliness, and so on. And the bottom, in our last years of our life, okay, we have what they call loss, loneliness, we have what they call physical frailty, and so on. And of course, back to etiology, the cause. Why is it? Which is the second noble truth. And the Buddha identifies it as tanha, or craving. And in the sutta, the Buddha says, it is this craving, or tanha, or thirst, which produces re-becoming. Re-becoming means to be born again and again, accompanied by passionate greed in finding fresh delight, now here and now there, namely craving for sense pleasure, craving for existence, craving for non-existence, or self-annihilation. And I'm not sure whether Garfield is still popular in the modern youth, but at least in my time, it was pretty popular. And the prognosis, or the possibility of cure, how to get rid of this dukkha, suffering, or ending of unsatisfaction, which is nibbana. And the Buddha says, it is the complete cessation of that very craving, giving it up, relinquishing, liberating oneself from it, detaching oneself from it. And that is called nibbana. And very often nibbana is what they call pictorially indicated by the blowing out of the candle flame. And the course of treatment, the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, in many of my sharings, I keep on showing this path. Now, the key issue with path is it brings you from where you are to somewhere. But only trouble with path is some people look at the path because the gardener doesn't want you to touch it, otherwise it destroys the what they call the beauty of it, especially in Japanese gardens. You cannot walk over a Japanese garden. Okay. But a normal path is, it brings you from A to B, which means you have to walk on that path to bring you somewhere. So a path is used to carry you from somewhere to somewhere. But at the end of the path, what is this Noble Eightfold Path? It makes you more noble. It changes you. It transforms you. So if you are a Buddhist, hoping not to have any changes, just very happy with your life, going to temple and bye-bye, sorry, you are not following what the Buddha said. You're not interested in getting rid of dukkha. Okay? You just go there to bye-bye and that's it. But the Noble Eightfold Path, the fourth Noble Truth, clearly says that you have to walk on this path. You have to practice. You have to do something. So the word path tells you that action is required. And as you walk the path, it makes you normal. You change yourself. And what are the things? They are eightfold, not eight. It's not called a Noble Eight Path, not Noble Seven, not Noble Nine, Noble 10, but the eightfold. So there are 8 factors, but the eightfold because all 8 interact with each other to reinforce, to support each other. Okay, so you cannot pick and choose. I only want to do this. The other one I don't care. No such thing. You have to do all 8. Noble Eightfold Path. Now the word aspiration comes in. Spiritual aspiration. What is this spiritual aspiration? Well, common sense will tell you that after the earlier slides, we have all these aspects, the Buddha's discovery underneath the Bodhi tree, that this is not our only life. And we know from our experience and from the Buddha's revelations that life, this is not our only life. We have a lot of dukkha phase in our life as defined in the first sermon by the Buddha. So spiritual aspiration is definitely, I want to end it all. I want to be happy. I want to have no more dukkha. That would be our spiritual aspiration, our end goal, the final goal. We want to attain nibbana, to get rid of this, what they call dukkha aspect. So that should be our, what they call our spiritual aspiration. But how is the key question. And of course, we are back to the Noble Eightfold Path. And here is the list. Most of you are familiar with this group of 8. Now, this group of 8 has one important aspect. Other than being not just 8, they interact with each other, they support each other. On the right side, we have the division into the 3 aspects. We have wisdom, we have morality, we have concentration. These are areas, these are subgroupings. So the Noble Eightfold Path can be what they call presented as this threefold training, as it were. Now, we start off with wisdom, or in the list of 8 is called right understanding. We need to have that little bit of understanding or little bit of wisdom to say, my life is like that. You reviewed it. You may now have come across what the Buddha taught, but you look at it, look at your life, and you find out that it's not fantastic. I want to find out how to make it better. So you decide, since you're a Buddhist, maybe you want to go to a temple, a society, come to Nalanda to learn something. Okay, it is that small initial understanding of unsatisfactoriness in your life that it springs up wisdom, gives you an idea that I want to learn more. That brings you to Nalanda to learn more things. That is the initial wisdom. Now, it goes one round, okay? Wisdom is to be developed. You can grow wisdom. It doesn't mean that you grow old means you are very wise. Now, just yesterday, I came across a YouTube video. They reported, it's a news, a commentary. They shows that 77-year-old man tried to kill somebody. And not even his relative, not his neighbor or whatever irritated him, but a political figure. This is in the US. Hey, the first thing that struck me was, hey, this person is 77 years old, Everybody say, hey, as you grow older, you should be wiser, isn't it? You should have eaten a lot of rice or eaten a lot of salt, maybe too much salt. You should be wiser. You should have more common sense than anybody else. Obviously, this 77, so wisdom doesn't come with age. This 77-year-old person is an idiot. He has been arrested by the FBI, by the way, okay, for attempting to kill somebody else. So, wisdom does not come with age. So we have to be that means wisdom has to be developed. Now, coming back to this Noble Eightfold Path, the whole path, although there are 8, it starts off, as I earlier mentioned, it comes off with right understanding, which arouses some little bit of wisdom that says, I want to learn more. I'm not happy with my life. So you come to learn more. Now, then you start learning more. Then the next steps. So in the Noble Eightfold Path, there's always the importance of right understanding. And then the 7 balance follows after that. Now, once you go through and try to practice each and every one of the other 7 factors, your understanding deepens, your wisdom deepens, which helps you to further understand how you should practice. Initially, you try to say, practice right action, or you find a lot of difficulties. But as wisdom grows, your ability to practice, say, right action or perfect action becomes better, more nuanced, more sophisticated, and more rewarding. Okay, so it is something you can do again and again and again. Now, that was a very technical, a list of 8 and so many things. But in the end, for a lay person, ordinary person, hey, what else do I gain? Because they're not interested in details, like right understanding, right action, and all those kind of things. In this particular sutta, the Tutiya Marapasa Sutta, notice the word Mara. In fact, if you read the whole sutta, the Mara is involved. But thanks to Mara, we got this sutta. Here, the Buddha said to the first 60 enlightened disciples that came about after the first lecture and so on, monks, I am freed from all snares, both human and divine. You are also freed from all snares, both human and divine, which means the Buddha is saying the first 60, the 60 monks, they followed what the Buddha taught, they became enlightened. So they have no more craving in them. So they are arahats. So the Buddha is an arahat, and says, so you are also free from all defilements. So you are all arahats also. And the Buddha encouraged them, wander forth, monks, for the welfare and the happiness, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit, welfare, happiness of gods and humans. And here, the key and the message I want to impart upon you is, all these Noble Eightfold Path, all the details and everything, in the end, translated in a very simple, everyday language. What is this Dhamma, or the teaching of the Buddha, for? For our welfare, for our happiness, okay, for our benefit. Okay, it is not for the Buddha. You bye the Buddha is not to make the Buddha happy. Okay, that is not important. The Buddha says this teaching is for our welfare, for our happiness, for our benefit, provided you practice. You take the medicine, then you can gain the thing. So in simple language, this is what is Buddhism about. And the Buddha said, let not two go by one road. So he turns 60 of them go in different directions to spread the message. Teach the Dhamma that's good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, meaningful and well phrased, and reveal the spiritual practice that's entirely full and pure. There are beings with little dust in their eyes. Now, this statement is very important. There are beings with little dust in their eyes. The Buddha is saying is that there are some people there outside in the audience, we do not know, who may understand what you are trying to say, who may appreciate what you are trying to share, but there are also other people who have much dust. Okay, they don't see you, don't understand what are you talking about. They might walk away. Hopefully, they don't throw rotten potatoes at you and rotten eggs at you, lah. But nevertheless, people are people. There are wise people around. There are idiots around, lah. Okay, but there are beings with little dust in their eyes. They got chance to understand. They are in decline because they haven't heard the teaching. So there will be those who understand this teaching. So even though there are few people who can understand, it is still worthwhile to go and teach. Okay, that is an important thing. So why do they teach? Out of compassion. Why do they have compassion? It's not just part of their development, but those who want to teach also understand. They themselves, like you also, they have been suffering. They're going through a cycle of birth and death. I have undergone. I don't want you to undergo this thing. So I want to share this message, because now for me, these arahats, these enlightened arahats, they have stopped going in the cycle of birth and death. But the rest of the people who haven't heard the Dhamma, haven't practiced the Dhamma, they are still going round and round. So because they have experienced it, they understand the dukkha, the suffering, the unsatisfactory of life. That's why they want to go out and help out of compassion. So that's why what they call the enlightened ones go and teach. A lot of trouble for them because they meet all kinds of funny characters. But despite that also, they still plow on because there will be those with little dust in their eyes. Now, this particular passage is also found in the Vinaya Pitaka, the Mahavagga. In the end, emphasis is you are responsible. There is a noble eightfold path. I show you how to get rid of your suffering, get rid of your disease. The doctor gives you the medicine, the pills to take. But you are responsible. The doctor cannot wave a magic wand and you be cured. The Buddha cannot do that. So you have to take the medicine. So that in terms of the illness, you have to take the pills as prescribed by the doctor. So you are responsible. And in this particular sutta, the Buddha says, I'm the owner of my actions. Okay, when you do something, you own it. You are responsible for it. Anything good or bad comes out of you. It goes back to you. Your actions, heir to my actions. Heir means you inherit. Regardless of how poor you are, how middle income you are, or billion, trillion, zillionaire, whatever terms you want to use, how many zeros behind the what they call ringgit sign, dollar sign, whatever currency. When you pass away, that's it. You don't bring your money with you, your investments with you, your Lamborghini, your favorite dog. Bring your wife with you. That one is an Indian Hindu philosophy. Suti, they burn the wife also, kill the wife so that they can be reborn in those days. But in the end, the Buddha says, what you bring with you after you pass away, it are your earlier actions. Heir to my deeds means you inherit your actions. Actions are my womb. Actions determine what you are born as, not always as a human being, sometimes lower than human realms, sometimes higher than human realms. So actions determine where you are born. So everybody here, normal people, they may not have heard of the Dhamma or the Buddha's teachings. You ask them, sure, they will I want to go to heaven. But they didn't know that actions determine where they are going to be born. It's their actions. My relative, my refuge, my relative. So, which family are you born? Who will be your parents? Who will be your brothers and sisters? Who are your uncles, aunties? And further afield, your friends or community. All determined by your actions. My refuge. Refuge is something in which you try to go for where something is happening. Like, for instance, heavy rain. First refuge is, if I carry umbrella, I open up so I keep dry. Don't have umbrella, you quickly run. Hopefully not underneath a tree because lightning can strike a tree and you can get electrocuted. Hopefully to run to a building. In terms of life and what to do with life, how to walk the noble path, you need refuge also. The refuge is in the form of Dhamma. But how do you get Dhamma? You must come to a Buddhist society. You must come across teachers. The book can be your refuge because you can learn things from the book. You can learn things from another person, maybe a lay person or a monastic who can teach you. Refuge, he teach you, this is this. You do this, it can help you. You can help yourself and so on. So even your actions now and in your past determine whether you get a chance to come across the Dhamma or not. And whether you get good teachers who can make you understand. Not all teachers can make you understand everything. Why? Because some of you are, shall we say, artistically inclined in your genetic makeup. So when people like me come around, I talk about science. They're wondering, what is this Ananda talking about? It doesn't click. It doesn't jive. Okay, so you have to have similar wavelength. So refuge also determines that whether you come across the right teacher to match what you are thinking or not, your background. I shall be the heir of whatever deeds I do or actions I do, whether good or bad. So you do good things, you inherit the good energy is generated by your actions. You do unwholesome things or the bad things, you also inherit all those implications. So if you're thinking, why my day today is so soy, yeah? Don't blame somebody else. Look back at yourself. Hey, what did I do last time? Probably cannot remember. But you know the method the Buddha taught. So I shall, even though today is very bad luck for me, my fate is no good, but you can, because you understand what's going on, you plow on to sow wholesome deeds, do wholesome actions, so that next time, there'll be more opportunities. All these actions open doors or close doors and so on. Okay? But who did them? You. So you make your own fate, as they say. And this fate is often given the name karma. Karma, the Buddha in this sutta says, intention, I tell you, is karma. Intending, one does an action by way of body, speech, and mind. So intention. Not just the action, but the intention, why you do it. And we are back to this spiritual aspirations. When and how? When can I attain my spiritual aspiration? Okay, in today's fast-paced world, that's how fast food and all those come about, lah. Okay, so everything we want now. Okay, although our preferred answer is I wanted it yesterday, but we cannot go back in time. So, what is desirable? What is welcome? In this particular Ita Sutta, many of you have come across already. House Lord, there are 5 things that are desirable, beloved, agreeable, but difficult to obtain in the world. What are the 5? This is 2,600 years ago. Not very different from today. Everybody wants long life. Beauty, happiness. When you combine long life with happiness, it means good health also, You can have long life, but you don't have happiness. You can have long life, but very sickly life. In and out of hospital, very susah, Want to die also cannot die, Okay, long life. What for? But you want long life. You want to be beautiful. Of course, guys will call tall, dark, and handsome, lah. We want happiness. We want fame. At least people don't want to throw eggs at you, lah. Okay, if it's not so famous, like Taylor Swift, not so famous, but at least people don't throw rotten tomatoes at you, lah. Reasonably okay. And of course, on passing away, rebirth in heaven. Nobody talks about nibbana conventionally, lah, normal people. So we want all these 5 things. So of these 5 things, House Lord, the Buddha says, I do not teach they are to be obtained through prayer, nor through wishing. This statement alone is very important, which means to say, the Buddha says, Buddhists, those who follow the Buddha's teaching, do not pray. Prayer means asking for some powerful deity, being, whatever. Some people call it God. Some people, for Buddhists, many Buddhists call, I go to the Buddhist temple, see the Buddha Rupa there. I ask the Buddha to give me this. That is called wrong understanding. They don't know what's going on. They are kidding themselves. Okay? So the Buddha clearly says, I do not teach they are to be obtained by prayer, nor through wishing. So that is not Buddhism. It is not proper that he should pray for long life, beauty, happiness, fame, and rebirth in heaven. He should rather follow a way of life that is conducive to long life, beauty, happiness, fame, and rebirth in heaven. Follow a way of life. This sounds like action, sounds like following a certain path so that you can achieve it, isn't it? So we are back to the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, this is another way of saying that you must do this. So everything we want, when can I get my spiritual aspiration, my nibbana? Everybody says, I want now, if not yesterday. But the Buddha says you must follow a way of life. So you must build it up. You must do things step by step. So it is no such thing as snap of a finger. You cannot. So you have to do it step by step. And how? What are the things you need to do? In this sutta, now interestingly, the sutta was given to monks, but it also applies to ordinary lay people like us. So, and the Buddha encouraged monks, there are these 3 grounds for making merit. What 3? One should train in deeds of merit that yield long-lasting happiness. So merit or punya gives long-lasting happiness. And for most people, when you say, oh, long-lasting happiness, our eyes, our ears will open up. How? Giving, the virtue, mental development. And for regular Buddhists or congregation to Nalanda, you're familiar with the terms dana, sila, bhavana. These are the simplistic. So the Noble Eightfold Path can be rearranged and transformed into these 3 terms: dana, sila, bhavana. By cultivating these 3 things, deeds yielding happiness, the wise person is reborn in bliss, in an untroubled, happy world. Okay, so dana, sila, bhavana. We need to develop all these 3 things you can do in terms of your day-to-day, getting nearer to your spiritual aspiration. In yet another sutta from the Iti Vuttaka, the Buddha says about giving. If beings knew, as I know, the result of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would they allow the stain of meanness to obsess them and take root in their minds. So giving is very, very important. And the pictures at the bottom are taken from various Pintacara events. And just now also you saw the first Pintacara for this year. And what about cultivation of morality? We have dana, sila, bhavana. So earlier we talked a little bit about dana, now we talk about sila. And earlier in the puja, we have what I call reaffirm that we want to practice the 5 precepts, the pancha sila. What is the 5 precepts about? Well, the first thing to note is they are called precepts. They are not commandments. There are no commandments in Buddhism. The word commandments come from the term command. Who can command? Well, it comes from religions or philosophers that think that there's somebody upstairs. I command you to do this. You don't follow what I say, you go to hell. That is not Buddhism. So a lot of people, when they come to ask Buddhists, hey, what are the commandments you follow? What Buddhists follow? The first thing you say, there are no commandments in Buddhism. Nobody commands you. Not the Buddha. The Buddha only recommends precepts. So what are precepts? Well, if just now you recited the first precept, Panatipata Veramani Sikkhapada Samadhiyami. The key Pali word there is called Sikkhapada. Sikkha means training. Who train you? Not the Buddha. The Buddha tell you, these are recommended. Who needs to do the work? You. So Sikkhapada means you train yourself. Not the Buddha holding a whip and say, you must do this, you must do this. No, up to you. Do it voluntarily. Do it because you have understanding of its benefits. So you train yourself to abstain from killing living beings. You abstain from taking what is not given. You train yourself to avoid sexual misconduct. You train yourself to avoid false speech. And you train yourself to avoid taking intoxicants and so on. Now, what does the 5 precepts do? Okay, you train yourself. Okay, you make yourself from maybe a not so good person to be a better person. That's one. But the import of it is the precepts protect you. Why? Earlier slide, the slide on you are responsible. Actions have consequences. If you kill, you're doing an unwholesome action. You create certain calming energies that boomerang later come back, whether in this life or the next life. They give you trouble. They close doors, make your life very unpleasant, very unhappy. So if you try to follow the precepts, the first step is bring yourself up from not so good situation to at least reasonable level. Okay, so precepts protect you. Okay, this is your insurance against being born in the lower realms. Okay, you open doors. So 5 precepts is very important. But just practicing the 5 precepts is not enough. You're not a very nice person. You are okay lah, not bad person, but you're protected yourself. You make yourself up to a reasonable level. Then you need to practice the 5 ennoblers. Ennoble means you make yourself more noble. What are the 5 ennoblers? The direct opposite of the 5 precepts. If you don't kill, you save lives. Example. Then of course, many people have come across and say, hey, I'm not in the medical profession. I'm not a doctor. How to save life? Then I throw back another question. Do you donate blood? Not once a year. Once a year is good, but could be better. Okay. Do you donate 2 times a year? 3 times a year? 4 times a year? Some people make it the regimen, you know. If they're able to fit enough, they donate 4 times a year. You cannot donate 5 times a year. Why? Blood bank will not accept it. You must rest for 3 months. Okay. So maximum donate blood is 4 times a year. Okay. Some people are Wesak blood donors. Some people don't care about Wesak. They schedule with the blood bank. They go there. Then schedule nicely. They don't have Wesak 4 times a year, isn't it? Once a year. So they do that. This is one aspect. 5 ennoblers. So you practice the positive aspects. Taking one is not given. Some people use the term stealing. So if I don't steal, how to practice the opposite? I want to be more generous. Generous materially, generous with my time, I help out and so on and so on. So you do something positive. So 5 precepts stop you from going from normal to worse. At least you maintain normal. Ennoblers push it up further, bring you a better person. Not just for you to think about, oh, see, I have helped this, I helped this, I helped this. But also other people see also, wow, that guy is a very nice person, very noble person. Okay? So you need to practice the precepts which protects you. The 5 ennoblers propel you to a higher moral stand. And what about cultivating the mind? Bhavana. The word bhavana, dana, sila, bhavana. Bhavana means cultivation or development of the mind. And this I extracted from the Kalama Sutta. The Sutta most people call Don't Believe Sutta. Unfortunately, the Sutta also teach meditation, okay? If you didn't know that it teaches, please read the Kalama Sutta in full. Kalama Sutta also talk about rebirth, you know, if you didn't know that towards the end. Anyway, the Kalama Sutta in the center talks about, thus devoid of greed, devoid of ill will, undeluded, alert, and resolute. This person keeps pervading the first direction. Now, India towards Japan, Asian country, India, I don't know about Middle Eastern or Iran or Iraq, but at least from India and eastward, the first direction is always the east. Rising sun, east. The second direction, south. Third direction, west. The fourth direction, north. When we go to school, the Western way is north, south, east, west. You know the symbol? Reflective of their culture and their religion. But Asian culture don't care about that idea. It's called east, south, west, and north. With an awareness imbued in goodwill. Pali word for goodwill, metta, loving kindness, or goodwill. Thus, he keeps pervading above, below, all around, everywhere, and in every respect, the all-encompassing cosmos. Don't limit it to yourself only. All around you, okay? And go beyond Sri Sedang, go beyond Sri Kembangan, go beyond Selangor, go beyond Malaysia. Here the Buddha says, all-encompassing cosmos, go beyond planet Earth, go beyond solar system also. So all the way, all loving kindness. With an awareness imbued with goodwill or metta, abundant, expansive, immeasurable, free from hostility, free from ill will. This is only the starting meditation on loving kindness or goodwill. Then the Buddha encourages the Kalamas to meditate or develop themselves on compassion, karuna, develop themselves on appreciation or sympathetic joy. The Pali word, mudita, or develop themselves in equanimity or upeka. So the 4 Brahma Vihara meditations are inside the Kalama Sutta already. Okay. Now, this particular sutta is interesting. At the bottom, near the boat, nivarana. Nivarana means obstacle, something that blocks you, that hinders you, prevent you from progressing. But nivarana means no more obstacle, no more blockage. So hence the top title, Without Obstacles. Here, the Buddha talks about monks. Sometimes a noble disciple pays attention, applies the mind. Here, the Buddha is talking about a person who is listening to a Dhamma talk, in this case, to the Buddha. Okay, so while listening to the Buddha also, you can gain certain things. So the noble disciple pays attention, applies the mind, concentrates wholeheartedly, and actively listens to the teaching. At such a time, while listening to the Dhamma talk, the 5 hindrances, the 5 things that block you are absent. And the 7 awakening factors are fully developed. It means while listening to the Dhamma talk, you can even develop the 7 awakening factors. What are the 5 hindrances that are absent? Sensual pleasure, ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and remorse, and doubt. Now, for those who have meditated or gone for meditation retreats and so on, the 5 hindrances are your constant enemy. Why? Meditators will know, I sit down cross-legged, I want to meditate. After 5 minutes, maybe longer, some people, bad luck, shorter, then start to, it's called dozing off. There is what? What is that here? The 5 hindrances, the hindrance of dullness and drowsiness. This is the one that attacks some of the meditators. But there are other kinds of meditators that sit down cross-legged. Their mind jump here, jump there, jump there, jump there. I want to meditate on rising and falling of my breath, in and out. But the mind jump here, jump there, constantly. What is happening? Restlessness. Very agitated, cannot sit still. These people cannot have dullness and drowsiness. This person's character is restlessness as a hindrance. So you need to work on it to get rid of it. Okay, so these are the 5 hindrances, revealed to you. So for the person paying attention during the Dhamma talk, these are the 5 hindrances that are absent. And what are the 7 awakening factors that are fully developed? The awakening factors of mindfulness, investigation of principles or investigation of the Dhamma, energy, rapture. Rapture is a kind of happiness. Tranquility, very calm. Immersion, means very concentrated. And equanimity. These are the 7 awakening factors that are fully developed. During the Buddha's time, there are a number of ordinary lay people, not monks, who actually come to listen to the Buddha. While listening, the hindrances disappeared. The 7 awakening factors become fully developed. By the end of the Dhamma talk, they became enlightened. Lay people now, at least enlightened up to, not to Arahat, but at least attain the first stage of sainthood. That's very good already. In Arya already. So don't underestimate the power of listening to the Dhamma. But, this is the but page. Old habits die hard. Not just the habit of this life, we're learning a lot of bad habits this life. The bad habit of samsara. We have this habit from long time ago. So basically, the definition of this idiom, used to say it is hard to stop doing things that one has been doing for a long time. So here, the idiom assumes long time means the earlier portion of this life, but actually, this is our bad habit from previous lives also, carry forward. So we are very skillful with this problem, which means this problem is like a big mountain. How to chop it off, make it smaller. So now we go into the details of the how to achieve this spiritual aspiration. And Many of you have come across this sutta, the Ambabalitika Rahulu Vada Sutta from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 61. Here, the Buddha was talking to novice Rahula. Okay, Rahula was only 7 years old. So this sutta, the Buddha was talking to a 7-year-old novice. What do you think? What is the mirror for? And Rahula said, for reflection, sir. In the same way, Rahula, bodily actions, verbal actions, mental actions are to be done with repeated reflection. Now, if anything, we will go through the details, but the key aspect about this sutta is about repeated reflection. That means check your mind, check again and check again. It's a lot of work, you know. Whenever you want to do a bodily action, you should reflect on it. This bodily action I want to do, would it lead to self-affliction? It means cause you harm, to the affliction of others, or to both? You must ask yourself before you do that action. So the key word is called when you want to do. You must reflect. Would it be an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection, you know that, common sense, you know, it would lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both. It would be an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results. Then any bodily action of that sort is absolutely unfit for you to do. So before you plan to do something with your body, then you go through this analysis, self-reflection, and you find that the conclusion of your analysis is it is unskillful bodily action, don't do. That means you stop there. So you use your mind to censor your bodily action. When you want to do a bodily action, verbal action and mental action, you should reflect it while you're doing this action or having done. So the earlier was before you start. While even doing, you should come to check. Hey, when I'm doing it, does it cause hurt to me, cause to the other people, or to both of us? If it does, immediately stop. So even while you're halfway doing it, stop. Or having done, that means you completed the physical action, you still reflect. See, the earlier thing I did, does it hurt me, hurt another person, or to both? If it did, next time I shall make sure I don't do that again. So thus, Rahula, you should train yourself. I will purify my bodily actions through repeated reflection. I will purify my verbal actions through repeated reflection. I will purify my mental actions through repeated reflection. And some of you may be thinking, wow, how do I use my mind to check my mind, mental actions? That one very difficult. I think for the rest of us, we do bodily and verbal already tough enough. When you are very good at that, then you can work on the last one, mental actions. And the Buddha was advising the 7-year-old, if we are older than that, also we got tough time doing the bodily action one. Okay, start at kindergarten, okay? But this was the advice the Buddha gave to the young Rahula. Now, this particular sutta is also very important. Now, when they start off this morning's sharing, I talk about goals. Goals we plan for 2024, which we try to do in 2023. Then we try again with 2022 and 21, and we formulated in 2020. It's called failure. You plan, but like that. And then the sharing, I proceeded to talking about our experience of change. And then the Buddha talked about the first lecture he gave about dukkha, the origin of dukkha, the possibility of getting rid of dukkha, which is attainment of nibbana, and how to do it, the Noble Eightfold Path. This sutta is also very important for spiritual aspirations. Right? The problem with failure, why it fails so easily? Because we don't do reflections. We don't check, remind ourselves. That's why it is strongly encouraged that we do pujas every day to affirm that we take the precepts and also. Why? It's to remind ourselves, because we are very forgetful. although we are young, not old yet, no, don't have Alzheimer and all that. But still, human beings are very forgetful. We are easily distracted by other things. So you say, never mind, and then you slowly forget. At the end of the year, my goals didn't achieve. Why? You didn't remind yourself. So reminder. So spiritual aspirations require us to remind ourselves. And this sutta emphasizes that. And what should you remind yourself of on the step-by-step journey to attain enlightenment, to attain nibbana, the end of dukkha? Here the Buddha says, there are these 5 facts one should reflect on often. Often means not once a day, multiple times a day. I just give you a discount. Once a day, you're very good already. Here the Buddha says often, which many times a day. Not just for an ordinary person, but ordained. Even for monks also, they must do that. Because they have to remind themselves of their spiritual aspiration. Why they bother to practice this spiritual aspiration? I am subject to aging. Yeah, we all grow old, we know that, but we have to remind ourselves. Have not gone beyond aging. This is the first fact that one should reflect on often, whether one is a woman or man, lay or ordained. I am subject to illness. Illness doesn't mean that you must see doctor or you must be admitted hospital. Illness can be simple thing, what we call a little bit of runny nose on the day. Not alarming enough for you to go and see doctor. But something not so good, you don't feel well. But still, you are subject to illness, whether very mild, medium, must see doctor or hospitalization. Okay, so you are still subject to illness. So I must remind yourself, I am subject to aging, I am subject to illness. I am subject to death. I know of people, even relatives, whenever a friend or that person's relative pass away, they will avoid wakes. They definitely will not come for the funeral. So other relatives who come for the wake and funeral probably say that relative of ours probably when they 10 week, they feel very pantang, suspect. Why never come for the wake at all? Although it's your own relative, your own cousin, your uncle, auntie or whatever, never come. They fear death. So for them. But here the Buddha says, I am subject to death. We face death. I will grow different, separate from all that is dear and appealing to me. Okay? We can be married, we can be best friends now, but later we can grow apart because of some reasons. But that's why the key word is called change. I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions, related through my actions, and my actions as my arbiter. Whatever I do for good or for evil, to that I will fall heir. So this is the source of the sutta, which I showed you, the responsibility page. Now, based on what line of reasoning should I often reflect that I am subject to aging, have not gone beyond aging? There are beings who are intoxicated with the typical youth intoxication with you. When I reflect on this paragraph, I think of the Mak Rempit. Why? They're all young fellas, teenagers, all what they call intoxicated with youth, what they call defying death. So they try all their tricks on their motorcycles. Because of that intoxication with youth, they conduct themselves in a bad way, in body, in speech, and in mind. But when they often reflect on that fact, that youth's intoxication with youth will either be entirely abandoned or grow weaker. Now, based on what line of reasoning should I often reflect that I am subject to illness, have not gone beyond illness? So we are trying to work on healthy persons' intoxication with health. Because of that intoxication with health, they conduct themselves in the bad way, in body, in speech, and in mind. And when they often reflect on that healthy person's intoxication with health will either be entirely abandoned or grow weaker. Now, intoxication with health. Some people think, never mind lah, I'm young lah, I can tahan all this nonsense lah. I can go to the pub and drink and drink and drink, eat bak kut teh every day for breakfast, everything. Later when they are, don't know whether they get a chance to reach 40 years old or not, hopefully they don't get heart attack. Do you know that 30-year-old can get heart attack? I know people who actually got that. Heart attack survivors, very fat. What to do? Intoxicated with health and with youth. Now, based on what line of reasoning should I often reflect that I'm subject to death, have not gone beyond death because of this living person's intoxication with life? They think, I sure can tahan, live until maybe 80 years old, no problem. When they near the time, then I tasin, as I say. Okay, but they forget their parents might have to bury them, go to their wake, go to the funeral, and that's very unfortunate for their parents. Okay, I will grow different, separate from all that is dear and appealing to me. There are beings who feel desire and passion for things they find dear and appealing. Okay, because of that, they conduct themselves in a bad way in body, speech, and mind. And when they often reflect on that fact, that desire and passion for things they find dear and appealing will either be entirely abandoned or grow weaker. And this one we have come across, as I mentioned in the responsibility page. Now, going further, I'm not the only one subject to aging who has not gone beyond aging, to an extent that there are beings past and future passing away and re-arising. All beings are subject to aging, have not gone beyond aging. When he or she often reflects on this path, the path factors take birth. Now, this is important. Now, when you have not gone beyond aging, what happens? You know that it creates urgency within you to practice the path. So when this person reflects often on this, the factors of the path take birth. What path? The Noble Eightfold Path. It means it tells you, I need to practice. Well, I still know about it, I need to practice. He sticks with that path, develops it, cultivates it. As he or she sticks on that path, develops it and cultivates it, the fetters are abandoned, obsessions destroyed. Now, fetters abandoned means you're gaining enlightenment. So all this reflection is to bring you back to the Noble Eightfold Path. It reminds you. Now, something I would like to say, not gone beyond aging. This one, the word aging, a lot of people say aging. We presuppose that it means growing old. So say, some people may be offended in this audience, I do not know. Some people say, I heard one advertisement. The advertisement script say, old people, 50 years and above. Say, 50 years old, man? To me, I was offended. I say, 50 years old, man? Let me say, 60 and above may be old. 80 and above, definitely old. Okay, so it's a matter of grade. But the key word is aging. You're subject to aging, subject to death. But the problem is, not just old people die, That's the key message. Not just old people die. Children die, teenagers die, young people die. Young people may say between 20 and 30 years old. That's called young. Okay? They also die. So if you reflect on this, not just aging, some people don't get a chance to grow old. When you reflect on this often, then the path factors will come and remind you, this is urgent, please practice. So when you practice, the factors become abandoned. So further, a disciple of the Noble Ones consider this. I'm not the only one subject to illness. Some people think of themselves, but then look around, everybody. Okay, I'm not the only one subject to illness who has not gone beyond illness. I'm not the only one subject to death. I'm not the only one who will grow different. I'm not the only one who is the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, and so on. Okay, let us continue. Now, this particular one is frequently recited in many Buddhist centers, the aspiration for spiritual friends. And some of you may be familiar with the sounding chant, Imena punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya. Meaning, by the grace of this merit, underline merit or the Pali word punya, that I have acquired by participating, by doing dana, by practicing sila, by practicing bhavana, by attending dhamma talks and so on. May I never follow the foolish or the evil friends. Bala actually means not evil. Bala actually means foolish. Silly people who do things for their own ideas, don't take care of themselves. But only the good and spiritual friends until I attain the final goal of Nibbana. Now, this particular aspiration is important because we do not practice alone. We practice in what we call communities. Unless you stay in the forest by yourself, then you are the exception. But the rest of us stay in families, in communities. We come to the Nibbana Center, we help each other. Okay, so we remind each other. So friends are very important. So this is a good, what I call, aspiration. You might not be familiar with Pali. You might chant recite it every morning or in English, or maybe you can find the Chinese version of this chant. You can just recite it to remind yourself that you avoid silly people and you want to go for supportive spiritual friends. This particular slide from the Upada Sutta is yet another emphasis on the importance of admirable friendship. Friends are key to enlightenment. You need good friends. And what happened was, one day, Venerable Ananda came up to the Buddha and said, "This is half of the holy life, Lord. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie." That was what Venerable Ananda taught. But the Buddha said, "That's not so. Say not so, Ananda. It is not half of the holy life. It is the whole of the holy life." Now, this is talking about monks, Monks need monks, monastic need to help monastics. What about us, lay people? We also need to help each other. So the Buddha continued, when a monk has admirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues, he can be expected to develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path. Why? Friends encourage each other. They report to each other, they tell us what they call their inner secrets or the inner troubles of practicing. Then the other friend can advise you. Or sometimes, very often, we are absent-minded. You want to kill the ant, then your friend, hey, don't. Then you remind you that you have taken the precept to abstain from killing living beings. So friends help to remind you to practice, help you to practice the precepts, help you to practice the ennoblers. And you must be a good friend to help the other person. So I help you, you help me. So friends are very, very important. In the end, we are not a fast food joint or fast enlightenment joint. We are a gradual joint. And in this sutta, from the Udana, the Uposatha Sutta, the Buddha says, just as the ocean has a gradual shelf, a gradual slope, a gradual inclination, with a sudden drop-off only after a long stretch. In the same way, this Dhamma Vinaya, doctrine and discipline, or the Buddha's teaching, has a gradual training, gradual performance, gradual progression, with the penetration to Gnosis or enlightenment only after a long stretch. Everything in life is step by step, in other words. Okay? From our own experience, we learn things also. Everything is step by step. We train ourselves. We perform better with training. We let go of the training, we regress. We forgot how to do. So this is step by step. So in the end, this page is to remind us what the Buddha taught. Sabba papasa akaranang kusala upasampada sachitta parajapanang etang buddhana sasanang. That we should avoid all evil. Do good. Purify your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. And this is Dhammapada verse 183. Okay, just a reminder. So with that, Sat Dhammo Cirang Titatu. May the good doctrine long endure. Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu. May all beings be happy.